Hello and welcome to episode 45 of the Triple Takeover Toycast, a fortnightly podcast about pink hot rod, as well as other modern and vintage toy lines occasionally. Toys are a hobby, hobbies can be serious, and serious things breed serious opinions. Joining me are my two seriously opinionated co-hosts. First up, a man who transforms breakfast into dessert, it's Mr. Mainline, Liam from Toybox Soapbox. Alongside him, it's the militant monoformer monologuer, Mr. Masterpiece himself, Sixo from Sixo. And I'm M.A.S.K from TFsquareone. As you might have guessed, this is the third installment of our controversial opinions series of episodes, and potentially the last if it gets as spicy as part 2. Lads, I've summoned you here for a purpose, and that purpose is pink hot rod.
Fantastic. I'm all up for pink hot rod. I've got to tell you, I could do a whole episode on this thing.
What were we just saying in the last episode about Flex over here? He's wafting this poster in our face and all this stuff he gets. And you're already inviting him in to talk about the one toy he has that we don't.
Yeah, why can't you just put pink hot rod on the shelf behind you so we can see him all the way through the episode?
I thought about it, actually. I'm not going to lie. Like, I was like, should I be a real prize and just like put it up there right behind on the shelf behind where I record, and it can just be staring at you the whole time. But I didn't do that, you see.
No, I just don't think he thought of it.
So benevolent of you.
Yeah, exactly. That's how nice I am, but I didn't do that.
Oh, nice-o.
So before we all get him in hand and everyone gets him in hand, can you just confirm that it is everything that we hoped it was?
I think so. I got to tell you. I mean, there's not a lot wrong with it. If you were going to really quibble it, the lack of chrome is a thing. I kind of like it even then, though. And as we've talked about on, the minisode that we did on it and everything, I fully intend on keeping at least one copy as is with the bare plastic.
You got to.
Yeah, exactly. It just looks fantastic. The thing I will say is that the paint is super nice. So even like the sort of additional paint applications, like on his knees and things like that, the orange, all looks great. And on his collar and things like that. It's just really nicely done. Really lovely blue eyes. The pink is just sort of outrageously good. Like, I keep looking at it and just thinking,
good.
I can't believe it's real,
Can't believe it's not fuchsia.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, so maybe the first controversial opinion should be how to transform his head.
Right. Well, I've had it's been a day. Let me tell you that. It's been a day of that.
I got embroiled in it too.
Yeah. I've had, at least 3 people saying to me, excuse me, Mr. Sixo, I think you've transformed that wrong. And every time I'm like, no, I get what you're going to say, but it's not wrong. It's this. It's the color. That's the thing. There's a lot of divided opinion, let's say, which is on theme for this episode about how to transform the collar. Like if it flips over or if it flips under. And officially, yes, it flips over. But equally, if people want to transform their toys a different way, man, c'est la vie.
But don't go on Twitter and call other people out when you
right. I suppose so. But then
in the first place.
I was that guy who posted the instruction snippet today, so I can't really.
That was hilarious, and that made me laugh.
I wasn't trying to make anyone laugh.
Yeah. It's difficult, isn't it?
But it's mad how the stock photography for that toy, even the Target Master version, which was a year later, had a chance to fix it, has it done wrong. Like, facing downwards. And then finding out the Walmart one actually does somehow clip in if you do it wrong was a bit of a revelation too.
It seems to, yeah. Like at least 2 people have posted pictures of the Walmart reissue to me today, and it seems like it clips the other way. I've got to get a Walmart reissue in hand and confirm now.
I've got one. I'll check. I just didn't realise.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. I want to know. I don't know, but it's a fascinating toy anyway. It's great to see people's reactions to it. I keep staring at it. What can I say?
Are the feet metal or plastic?
Metal, rubber tires, metal feet, loads of paint. Even paint on. I didn't even notice this. Right, like on. Did you ever see on G1 Hot Rod on the toy on his head crest? Sorry, Maz, bit of a toy spoiler. On his head crest, he's got a little sort of divot inside his head crest, just there, tiny little thing that I'd never even perceived before in the molding. Yeah. It's actually painted grey on this one. They put the tiniest little dab of paint just in the top of his head.
Animation models, isn't it? And all the subsequent toys, it's always there.
It's barely perceptible on the toy. It's such a tiny paint application. And it was such that I saw it when I took it out of the box. And I thought, is that actually there? Have they retooled that? And I had to go back and check on a previous version of Hot Rod, and it is there. Incredible.
There you go.
Are you saying you'd have to use a perceptor to percept it?
Yeah, sure.
Lots of real words from Liam there.
Yeah,
definite
exactly.
Words that totally exist.
That was a sentence.
Percept. That's definitely a word.
Yeah.
Maybe used in the wrong context, but so what? Still exists.
It's Transformers, mate, in it. There is no wrong context.
Have that Mr. Collins in your dictionary.
Yeah, I bet he'd be reeling from that one, mate.
Yeah.
So, controversial opinions tonight then. Third round of it. Not had enough.
Mhm. We've picked two particular opinions because we feel that will fill up the episode nicely. A couple of meaty ones either side of the sponsors. And speaking of sponsors,
Oh, yeah, we do have sponsors tonight, don't we? We've got two, actually. We've got tfsource.com for all your Transformers and third-party needs. And then we've got kapowtoys.co.uk, both of whom have Pink Hot Rod up for pre-order or are in stock right now. I think Kapow Toys actually getting theirs in stock, aren't they? I'm working on posting it out and everything. So, yay them. So, yeah, go check them out. tfsource.com, kapowtoys.co.uk. We'll do a longer segment on them in the middle of the pod, of course.
And if you want to hear more about Pink Hot Rod, we did an entire minisode. And if you're asking yourself, what's a minisode? It's part of the extra content we provide weekly for our patrons. So if you go to patreon.com/triple takeover, you can support us in a range of ways just by saying thank you with £1 a month, or signing up to Man in Pig, where you can get early access to episodes, signing up at Inner Beast, where you get access to our Discord server, and you can ask questions on the pod, or even higher at Sixo's Butler, where you can commission minisodes, and you get the opportunity to listen to other people's minisodes every 2 weeks. And then we've got Gold Box Classics, where you can actually get mini-series access as well. So you get exclusive content every week. So if you want more of us, you want more of Pink Hot Rod, patreon.com/triple takeover.
And once you've filled your sack with all those episodes and minisodes...
Sack?
Well, I know another guy who's desperately struggling to fill his sack at the minute, and that's poor old Santa. You know,
wow.
He's got to put all those toys and gifts in for all the good girls and boys. So, you know.
Are there any golden balls in his sack?
Sounds so wrong.
Just for you. Just for you, Maz. But, you know, be a bit like old Geldof there. Help Santa out. You know, lighten his load. And go to, you know...
What?
Lighten his load, you know, so he's carrying less in his sack.
Sure.
But yeah.
Is this meant to have some sort of subtext, or is it just me reading too much into it? Okay.
Okay. But yeah, so what you can do is help Santa out and head over to our Rebel store and buy all sorts of merch, which you can find at rebel.com/people/triple takeover/explore.
Explore.
I was waiting for Sixo there to find some other way to link it to dirtier things.
I don't know, man. There was a definite subtext there.
Right, well, if we're quite done talking about pink rods and sacks, I think we can get to our controversial opinions. The first one up for discussion is a meaty one, and that we do believe this will take up the entire segment. It's going to be non-transforming Transformers toys.
Yes.
All right, now we have a very big supporter of non-transforming Transformers toys in the room.
Who's that then?
Mr. Sixo, will you please make yourself known to the audience?
Oh, hello.
No, he's got some behind him.
I do, actually. You can see some behind me, I think. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. A couple there. I love them. Absolutely love them. What can I say?
So this would have started all the way back in G1 with Action Masters.
Right. Killed the franchise.
Right.
Annihilated it. Yep.
Yeah. And of course, there's things like the 3.0 stuff more recently that is very premium product, very expensive, and you certainly had to bat away a number of comments and opinions about those being rubbish because they don't transform.
Yeah.
Over the last few years, certainly. So there's an entire range of this kind of product. And then you've got the Super 7 stuff as well. You've got like really good vinyl models, and PVCs as well. Back in the early 2000s were a really big collector market. But it's funny how they never came in for the same kind of abuse as stuff like Action Masters and 3.0 stuff does.
Yeah, it seems to be something about certain lines. Like, I think people disassociate some of it as being, as you said, like statues or PVC things or whatever. They're almost off to the side. Like, people don't... Yeah, they are. People view them like tat. Like, they don't view them as toys as such, like the way that they would a transforming thing. They sort of mentally just have them in a different box, I think. Whereas it's stuff like... I do see it a lot with 3.0. Not so much with Super 7, and I think there's a distinction there between Super 7 and 3.0 even. I think it's because 3.0 sort of has the look of... Well, in photos anyway, I could see that you might perceive it as having the look of like Masterpiece almost, even though they're actually more premium than Masterpiece. Like, if anything, once you've seen these things in hand, Masterpiece looks more mainline than these, you know? I would say the gap between Masterpiece and mainline is almost smaller than the gap between Masterpiece and 3.0, if that makes sense. But people sort of put them in the same box as Masterpiece, I think, and then they become, in people's minds, masterpieces that don't transform almost. that's sort of how I see people seeing it, if that makes
I
sense.
think that's the core of people's problem with it. It's the bit where something about this non-transforming toy appeals to them, but then they get annoyed because it doesn't fulfill all the criteria they need
Yes.
to buy it. So those 3.0 toys have exceptional robot modes and posability, and they are the most premium looking robot version of a representation of a character that you could want, but they don't transform, so it doesn't fulfill their criteria, and they
Yeah.
don't like it to exist. Action Masters, they're part of G1. They have G1 nests about them, so people need them to finish their G1 collections, but they don't transform, and it gets people annoyed because then it doesn't fit the criteria of their collection.
100%. I see a lot of people saying, "Oh, I really like the look of that 3.0 thing. I wish I could get it, but it doesn't transform, so I won't." And I'm often like, well, why don't you just kind of give it a go and see how you get on with it? Like, if you, I don't know, sometimes I do also think, how often are you transforming these things that it becomes like an absolute necessity? Like, I do understand people have this thing, and I get it, that like it's the core kind of purpose of the toy line. Like, it's their raison d'etre, it's like their sort of reason for being, as it were, that they need to have this inherent gimmick as part of them. But actually, once you get past that, I don't know, sometimes it's just about fun, cool robots for me. And the 3.0 stuff definitely ticks a lot of boxes that equivalent transforming Transformers of those same character models don't or can't. So, yeah, interesting stuff.
I have never understood the issue that people have with non-transforming Transformers at all, even in the slightest, because I don't understand how people can't differentiate them from Transformers that transform. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like I don't look at Sideswipe, a G1 Lamborghini, and get annoyed because it doesn't go from 0 to 120 in 6 seconds or whatever, because
Right.
I know I accept it's not a real car.
It doesn't.
Despite your brother's best effort.
Yeah, it probably can if it's launched out of a window, but from a great height.
He
But,
will try.
like with these, they're toys. Like I remember the first time I saw Action Masters, and at this point, my interest in Transformers was waning massively because Ninja Turtles would have been in its absolute pomp here. Italian Night had just happened, and I was getting super into Nintendo. But I still had a couple of Action Masters, and I remember the first time I saw them, thinking, "Oh, Transformers that don't transform." That's probably the last time I thought about it until I joined the fandom and saw people complaining about it, because just accepted it and moved on. I never get why people get so angry.
You're always someone who's collected lots of different toy lines, though, and you still have loads of different toy lines. You posted an incredible photo the other day of the animated series Batman and the Green Power Ranger, because you have those toys. And you have all of these representations of loads of different pop culture media, but a lot of the people who are taking issue only collect Transformers toys.
Do you not think, though, that makes it somehow worse is probably a strong word, but because then they must have other versions of these characters. So what is the insistence that every single version has to... I don't know, because you get this so much with accuracy and stuff like that. People like, it has to look like this, and it's like, why are you just forcing everything to look into something you've
I'm
already
sure
got?
there's some crossover there somehow with what you're saying about like characters having to look a particular way or whatever. You do get it where people are very much like, genuinely people have said to me online, it's not a Transformer, like about a particular thing, when they're really going for it. Very often people just kind of hand wave it or whatever, or that's not for me, and that's fine. But you do get some real like out and out zealots against this stuff that are like, what is that kind of, that's not an official Transformers toy almost. I still think my favorite was someone telling me they weren't Transformers and just responding with a picture of one of the boxes, Action Masters. I was like, seems to say that they are just here. Do you know what I mean? And it's a funny thing. I do get it, as I say. I understand it's not for everybody, but it's, as you said, Liam, it's the sort of refusal to accept that something different to your preference can exist.
It makes no sense, because in your daily life, you are like this with anything. You have different versions of things. Like, imagine if you were eating cheese on toast and someone goes, it's not a pizza. Don't understand why you want to eat that, because it's freaking bread with cheese on it. You're like, well, it's two different things, slightly similar, I guess. And it's the same here with like non-transforming Transformers. It's like, you've already got those. You can have those as well, or you can have one or the other. It's your choice. It's just more stuff, different flavors of things.
I think that's such a great analogy. I do think that some of it maybe stems back historically from the Action Master years, because they are credited with, joking aside, having killed the franchise at the time, and I can understand why people think that, because it was 1990 in most of North America anyway.
I think at the time it was 1990 everywhere.
It was. You're right, actually. I'd have to check. Pretty sure time zones, that kind of thing, different continents. We'll go back. We'll have a look at some maps. And but no, in most of North America, of course, the line came screeching to a halt after 1990, and Action Masters was all she wrote for 3 years or so anyway. And I think so in people's minds, it became sort of linked, if you like, that Action Masters was the last hurrah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I think people think of it differently. I think people think of it that Action Masters happened and they were so bad that that was it, and it just was over from that point. Whereas actually, I think reality is that it was the last hurrah. The toys, if anything, were on the way out, and this was their thing of like making them cheaper and more cost effective to get another year of Transformers. And I think if it wasn't really going to continue one way or another, I don't think.
I think they were just the ones that were standing when the music stopped, weren't they?
Yeah, exactly. That is a great way of putting
it.
That's it. Exactly that. So I don't know. It's not that they killed the franchise. It's that the franchise was already sort of dying, and they just happened to be there.
Such a funny picture. The thing is, I've got Croc with Gatorade. I think Gatorade transforms. So effectively, it's a Transformers toy with a massive figurine accessory, really.
Yeah, with an action figure accessory. Yeah,
there you go.
For sure. But there is a lot of transforming in the line. I mean, all of the vehicles transform, and they're hilarious because you've got stuff like Wheeljack's car and things like that.
Is Wheeljack's the one that comes with the red Testarossa, isn't it?
The rest, it's a Testarossa, yeah. It just makes me laugh so much because all of the others are like, Optimus has got his little battle wagon and Megatron's got a tank and they've like helicopters and all of that kind of stuff. And then, here's Wheeljack and his little Testarossa just busting around town. It just makes me chuckle.
If you could, though.
Absolutely. I just like the idea that he built it for himself or something.
His own Miami sound machine, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Just go around in Crockett's theme again.
Absolutely.
But what always mystifies me about this, though, just to go back slightly, is the people who say, to get really angry about it and stuff. I remember being there at the time, and I don't remember many people still being into Transformers. So it feels like a lot of this like annoyance at Action Master stuff is sort of like backdated almost. It's almost like people look back and go, "Oh yeah, that killed the line." But it's like at the time you weren't saying that because you probably had moved on. You were into something else, or you maybe hadn't discovered Transformers. But people like pinpoint it and had the definitive, "Oh, that killed the line." It's like, but to who? You'd already moved on to Turtles or 90 other things that were going on.
Maybe someone like a little bit younger than us who maybe started picking up Transformers in 1988 or 89. Yeah. So their first year of Transformers might have been Micromasters and Pretenders. And then the year after that, toys became non-transforming for the most part. But then why didn't those people just move to Japan and collect there?
Why ever not? Different time zones.
It wasn't 1990 in Japan.
Exactly.
It was 2010 when it was 2005 here, remember?
It was 2010. It was 2010. Very good.
Oh, please. I've got to tell you this. I saw something that my colleague sent to me, and I believe it was a post on a social media platform, and it was just, Transformers is funny because it seems to be a simple niche interest, but in reality, it's like if your Hot Wheels came with Greek mythology. I just think it's a perfect description.
Absolutely spot on.
It is.
Totally works. It is, though.
So just think about kids of all of those ages. Like you're saying there, if someone got into them at Micromasters, like people of our age were starting to grow out of Transformers. So there would have been a lot of people who'd grown out anyway and moved on. So the people coming in, there would have just been that less interest. And I just can't get behind this idea now that people get into it.
Maybe they saw their older brothers and sisters into Transformers at its pomp and they're like, right, now it's my turn. I can have Transformers now. I'm old enough. I'm not too young to play with them.
But they would have their
and they get Action Masters.
siblings, surely. Or, they'd have the remains of this.
Yeah, how did yours last?
Not built to last those things.
Not everyone had a mum who was able to complain to Weetabix and get all of Transformers.
Right,
exactly.
The lesson everyone should learn in parenting skill. That's the one they should teach, Parenting 101. But I just think, I always find it fascinating the way people pinpoint that, because they do it with so many things in these toy lines where, particularly people who weren't around for it or people that had moved on and stuff, and they create this sort of focal point for something. You're like, in reality, that was not how it was at all. Like, that time, everyone in the world was into Ninja Turtles. That was exactly what was going on. So they were fighting a losing battle.
There's a reason, isn't there, that the toy line ended ultimately, and it's not Action Masters. It's not that Hasbro just suddenly turned around after 1990 and went, "Oh my god, these toys we made are complete shit. Like, what are we doing? We'll have to stop the franchise now.
Or they're selling too much, lads. We've got to turn it down so nobody will buy and kill our line.
Exactly. It stopped for a reason, which is that it wasn't selling. And I think what is interesting, actually, is that there are people, definitely, who I've spoken to, who remember Action Masters fondly, the kind of slightly younger age ranges that you're talking about, Maz, that remember it because they could get a Bumblebee or a Prowl or a Wheeljack for the first time. That, you know, and all right, Classics was just around the corner for some territories anyway, but you know, they'd never had these characters themselves before. Even an Optimus Prime, you know, just as we talk about Power Master Optimus, there are people that had Action Master Optimus as their Optimus, or Megatron, or particularly Megatron, I think, actually, because he'd not been around Megatron in years by this point. As a toy. So, you know, a lot of people do remember it fondly from that avenue. Yet still, it has this reputation historically, and I think that has always sullied this notion, just to get us back on topic, about non-transforming Transformers generally. I think the reputation of it stems from there.
It can't be too much of a European opinion, because within a year of that, people had access to more yellow Constructicons, and then Rescue Force, and then Turbo Masters, and all this. I was like, went right up to the peak again. Right. And classics, like you said.
And a second year of Action Masters, you know, in 1991. So, and some great ones as well. Although they did introduce more and more transforming into it through that as well. So, yeah, but I think that it's really funny for me when you think that actually these toys are essentially 1/8 of the entire Generation 1 toy line, and yet they're seen by some as like the absolute nadir, just like the worst thing that ever happened. And I don't know, I think it's unfair. I think it's truly unfair, honestly. And I get that people don't like it as a concept, but it's just the sort of irrational dislike or hatred that people have for them that I find a bit mad.
Yeah, that I can get on board with, where if you don't like them, that's fine. But the bit I cannot get behind is this whole idea that people have created that, you know, this killed the line, as if there was millions of Transformers fans that suddenly chucked it down and went, that's the end. Because it'd been on diminishing returns for years. Like, I remember as a kid, I was drifting from the sort of, even the toys I really like now, like the later Target Masters, these 87, 88, I was starting to drift because I was moving on. I'd had Transformers for ages. And I don't think that was the end. I just think it was just happened to be, like you said earlier, the end at the time. So it's just where it went because it was dying naturally. But like, I remember getting those toys and being so happy to be able to pose them. Like, the one I remember getting was Jackpot. It's the one that came with a little grey bird that I thought repurposed his laser beak, reincarnated like a Buddhist or something. But just remember the first time being able to move legs on Transformers, you know, properly, and arms, and pose them how you thought of them in your mind. Not quite, but
yeah, I had great fun with them. I mean, they were obviously modelled after G.I. Joe toys, and you know, to kind of fit with all of that. I had great fun with like Soundwave and Shockwave, you know, the ones that I had, and these were toys that I'd never owned at that time. You know, the original toys of them, those characters. So it was great, really. Like, you know, a lot of it, and I think if you just kind of embraced it. And I think that's the thing. There is a lot to be said about, obviously, transforming toys. That's a huge part of the DNA of these things, or converting, I suppose we should say, officially. Let's not get into that. But that's a huge part of the DNA of what makes these so engaging and successful. But Transformers has also always been successful because it is first and foremost a property about characters that you enjoy. And that's part of what separates it from stuff like Diaclone and all of that kind of stuff, because they emphasize these characters as being the sort of front and center and the makeup of the brand. And I think to say, oh, only transforming toys can be real Transformers toys, and all of these like really excellent renditions of your favorite characters that just don't transform aren't real, I think that ignores what is at the core of it for a lot of people with Transformers, frankly.
It's a really weird line to draw.
Yeah.
It really is.
Most people clearly have never heard of the militant monoform movement.
Right.
So there's that.
How cool was it that they even gave them some sort of background as to why they couldn't transform? Like, you know, that whole whatever they drank, Newcastle Brown Ale, they went on a quest to drink that or whatever and kind of lost the ability to transform. But you're like, they even...
Because it made them stronger. That's the thing. It's all works in universe. They couldn't transform because then they're more powerful. They're more, you know, at the core of it. Makes total sense.
just to
Don't
Just the
quote
power
me.
of articulation.
just to play devil's advocate here, I do think a lot of Transformers collectors, they have value for money at the forefront of their mind. And a lot of collectors do collect on a budget and have done for a large part of their collecting lives, whether they've been young or students or just the disposable income they've had hasn't matched the desire to be able to get everything they want. So I think that sometimes comes into it with these things. So
Maybe.
vintage Action Masters can run quite a lot of money now because people are trying to complete their G1 collections. Everyone's collection has moved past Headmasters, even Pretenders, and now it's entering the 90s, and there's loads of 90s toys which are spiking in price. And then you've got the 3.0 stuff, which is excellent representations of characters they actually really do love in modern media. And then they're very expensive, but people need that element of value for money, not just this is worth the money I'm paying, but almost beyond that to I'm getting something extra for my money here.
Yeah.
Transformers collectors love getting something extra. I know I do. Like, I find out a toy I've bought at a regular leader class price has an extra feature that somebody didn't say, and I'm looking at it now thinking, oh, there's an extra homage here to something from the past. Isn't that a nice little extra bit that you get? Oh, it's a nice bit of extra paperwork.
More
But
bang
they're
for your
not-
buck.
Yeah, but they're not getting more bang for their buck with something like 3.0 or Action Masters now because they're missing this key element that, or maybe we're not even entitled to, really. This is the world we live in. I remember just recently someone was asking us to help them find a box G1 Jetfire, and I've still got in my mind the price I paid for a box G1 Jetfire in 1998. It's like, it was £120, and we're saying to this guy, yeah, you should be looking at £200 to £300, and I'm thinking, hang on, that's a bit dear, isn't it? Like, we actually say, like, would I pay £300? Dude, it's been 24 years or something since the last time. I was like, yes, it's gone up in price. So it's that intransigence on pricing of things and how prices of things move with the times. And I think value for money is another reason why people have to explain their way out of buying these things.
I could see that. And yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack there. I mean, two things. First of all, the bit that makes me laugh about these sorts of like purists that want everything to transform and you know, sort of see maybe earlier G1 as like the, you know, the bastion of greatness and all of this, whereas Action Masters don't transform, so it's like somehow, you know, second rate or whatever. But then these are the same buggers that will buy six shots and have them all sat individually. Do you know what I mean? On a shelf, so they don't have to transform the damn things, and then they'll swear off Action Masters. You know, so I think there is a bit of irony there. I'm not dissing that approach at all, because actually I do quite like the look of those displays and I think they're quite fun. But
yeah,
I think
I just want one person to do it, not 50.
Right.
Could just one of you choose to do it, and not all of you to
Six
take
shot.
approximately 300 6 shots off
I was
the
going to
market.
say, 6 shot is the ultimate example, isn't it? Because you do think there must be like it's like billionaires, isn't it? There's like a little monopoly on 6 shots, and there's probably like a kind of core 30 people or something holding all the 6 shots that are doing this and just having it in like every mode or whatever. It's quite funny. I say funny. Is it funny? I don't know. Sort of funny.
Ironically, 6 shot is one of the most fun things to transform, and probably produces the least wear to the toy by transforming.
Yeah. It's very true. It's very transformable toy and very enjoyable to do. But I suppose that's my point, is that there are people that do that and they buy multiples of these things to not have to transform them, whether that's because of fear of wear or just because they don't want to transform them or whatever. Now, I don't judge that, because I think there's something about that in a display does look nice. And anyway, it's not my place to judge it. But by the same token,
no, this tonight is your place.
Well,
to judge it. That's
tonight's
exactly
the
what
night.
This is your sermon.
Let's get it all out. But by the same token, then there is room for non-transforming Transformers as well, because I don't know. I think it all kind of fits the bill.
Yeah, they're not taking anything's place.
No,
no. They exist, so something else doesn't. It's not the case.
That's the thing.
That's such a good point.
That is it. In a nutshell, you're not losing anything. It's just another flavour of something. It's like you had pencil sharp, rubbers. Do you remember that looked like Transformers?
I remember rubbers, yeah. They had them in that 1990 thing I've heard about.
Are you sure it was still 1990 then?
No, that was only in Europe, not in a
European exclusive rubbers. That's what they're.
Yes, exactly.
In,
not in
in
America.
the US, they were still pencil sharpeners.
Oh no,
Yeah.
in the US they were called erasers. So
Right.
But do
Right.
you remember you used to get like characters? Like I remember having the Centurions one, and I remember loving the fact that it just looked like a little sculpted character, but it didn't do any of the same things as the toy. But I was like, I just knew it wasn't supposed to do that. So I don't get this thing people have where it's like it has to do this, and they can't accept that there being more. We're so used to other like hats,
Yeah.
like you said earlier, just different things in the brand for every brand. Merchandise, it's just all extra stuff for someone else.
It's funny, yeah, when people get irrationally angry because it's almost like, oh, that thing being made means that my thing can't be made, and it's like, dude,
It's also not being made by Hashtag.
yeah,
It's being made by 3-0.
well, in this case, yes, very much so. I think the other thing, I just want to go back to something you said a minute ago, Maz, about bang for your buck and all of that. And I think with 3-0 in particular, there's something here with that, because the one thing I always say about 3-0 is that you need to see these things in hand and hold them and really
Can confirm.
to really fully appreciate what it is that they do. Because I get it. If all you're imagining is like, let's say, a masterpiece transformer that doesn't transform, yes, I can understand why you would sit there and think, what's the deal with that then? Why is it so expensive? Why would anybody want that when you can get a transforming version? So it's a no-brainer. But actually, when you see them in hand, as you both have, there's so much more going on with them. Firstly, the level of detail and the intricacy in the sculpting and molding is breathtakingly good. I mean, I'm sat here now looking at the new deluxe Revenge of the Fallen Jetfire that they've done, and it's just breathtaking. There is no masterpiece toy that comes as close to the level of detail.
Because that's made without compromise.
Yes. Yeah. And it is because it doesn't transform, and it is because it doesn't have to, although actually this one does, because it becomes the what's it called? The jet pants for Optimus. The take my parts and all of that. And it does that.
Corpse clothes.
Yes, it becomes his corpse suit. Yes, indeed. Yeah, when he wears a dead guy and flies off and steals
paying his
faces.
respects by using him to blow up
Right.
half of the pyramid.
Indeed. Imagine if we did that. Let's not imagine it. Anyway, horrible. But it's looking at it now, it's just breathtakingly good. But yes, it doesn't have to transform into a jet. So there are advantages it has in that respect. But what you get as the trade-off is a kind of level of intricacy, molded detail, paint applications, weathered finish, die cast, all of this kind of stuff that you would never get in a traditional Transformers toy. The other thing is that there's way more articulation in these things.
Yeah. You pose them in a way that you're never going to get with a high-end Transformer product.
For sure.
It's just...
I remember showing you, Maz, the I think it was the Bumblebee movie, Optimus Prime.
The triple spine segment thing. That's
You showed us that at your
remained
house,
with
and I'm
me.
still, awe. Like I remember how in awe Maz was before you showed me. Wow,
it's so cool. I remember seeing it for the first time. It was one of the first toys. I got their Bumblebee first, from the Bumblebee movie, Bumblebee of Bumblebee fame, of Bumblebee banner, and then I got the Optimus Prime, and it is just the bit where you do the ab crunch. And it starts off like you would get an ab crunch, and people are still losing their monkeys about ab crunches on masterpiece toys. So the
people lose monkeys.
They're losing the monkeys everywhere.
There has been a global shortage of monkeys. Did you not know?
There has been, yes. So many people returning to monkey. That's the thing. So
a lot of monkey magic.
There is, yeah. I mean, if 3-0 did an Optimus Primal.
If they did a monkey from Monkey Magic, I'd be well on board.
Imagine that.
You're touching on something really important here. If this was the Iron Man, the Hot Toys Iron Man,
right,
a 3-0 Iron Man that you have, that thing is astounding, and that is simply no conversation because it's just the very best version of that it could be. It's almost like with Transformers, it's an unfair expectation to then want to have a perfect representation of the media that you love, but it has to then turn into something else too.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before. Transformers as a concept do things that other toys simply don't have to. They have to look good in two completely separate configurations at least. Then go between them seamlessly in a fun way. Not just in a way, but in a fun way.
And we've seen enough.
Apart.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And we've seen enough masterpiece level transformations, not to mention third party, which we're going to bring in because this is the thing. They do convert, they do transform between those modes, and they still look accurate. They look exactly how you want it to look. But my God, they're not fun to do, are they? They're like, to the point of who's doing that repeatedly to the level that we're talking about, where you want this thing to transform repeatedly?
Then you need to buy 2 because you never want to transform it again.
Yeah.
Then you might as well just buy the 3.0.
You don't want to scuff the paint.
Exactly.
Right.
So I got to tell you, my ultimate comparison here is that Bumblebee movie Optimus Prime, because this thing, you've seen it, it's
delightful,
stunning in hand. It's
would
just
absolutely have that in my collection, and I never would have thought that if I hadn't seen it in yours and seen what they've done with it.
The level of detail is unmatched, unparalleled, and this is a design, this Bumblebee movie Optimus Prime, that has been done repeatedly now by there's a masterpiece, an MPM version, which is I actually really like. It looks more basic than the 3.0 by comparison because it has to transform, and therefore there is compromise. And I actually really like the MPM, but that's the thing, they do different things. They are fundamentally different products. One is not. It's unfair to compare them because one doesn't have to transform, so it has all of these other advantages: more articulation, more detail, more accuracy to the screen, just more impressive to look at visually and handle as an action figure. But the other one can transform and is fun to do and has cat ears, so there's something to that as well. But
they haven't stopped each other existing, have
no,
they?
exactly. They can coexist, and you can own both and enjoy both for what they are, or just own one. I know.
Lies.
Shocker. It's monkey business.
That's another thing here. We're not actually saying that everyone should like them.
No.
We're just saying it's okay for them to exist and for people to like them and for them to be called Transformers, because that is the property that they are inspired by and referencing. So, just don't wish them out of existence is the thing, because believe it or not, they're pretty great.
So there's something here that I think we're hitting on that I find quite fascinating, which is that all of this is we're talking about it from a collector standpoint, from ourselves, from what we see, from what people talk about. Whereas I look at it and I look at Action Masters and I see the same reaction people have when Hasbro released like a subline of toys for kids, like the cheaper versions of things or stuff where it's got no articulation and it's designed for kids. And you see people go,
mainline. Why
would you buy this trash?
He missed that.
All right, snobby Maz.
I'm joking.
No. But what I mean is, you see that same reaction so often with the people who call things trash. That's not intended for them.
Oh, yeah.
But I think this circles back to this mindset in Action Masters. All of these things is people have this they have to fit it into this specific box, like a collector angle only. It has to be perfect. 100%. Like you said earlier, it has to be the perfect representation of this character. It's like Action Masters don't transform. It can't be but it's not intended to be. They're not selling it you as the most perfect Transformers toy ever made. It's just a different version of that character for possibly somebody else.
100%.
Like you were saying there, it could be for kids growing up, coming in later because other kids have gone into teenage years by that time. And that it just comes up, and I think this is the mindset we have to get out of, because we also look back at it through, now, from a historical angle, because we look at every year, this is definitively as if it's all like a chain of releases, isn't it? Because it is, I suppose. But it is just different product released to them, to Hasbro. They're not looking at it this is definitively the sequel to this, just carry it on. A lot of time they're looking at how do we sell new things to new customers? How do we keep this line going? That's the core of it.
Yeah. Isn't Robosend that exactly? Very clearly, probably not everyone at Hasbro is on board with the Robosend product, but it's a product intended for a particular market.
Very diplomatic.
Yeah, 100%. I think Robosend actually, and that's a whole other discussion, but that is an interesting product in itself, because I don't think it's even aimed at Transformers collectors. No. Frankly, I think it's a completely separate audience. I don't even think it's designed with us in mind.
No.
As people, it's clearly it's on a different budget. Clearly it's in a different league.
It's a robot.
It's for robotics fans.
Yeah,
it's robot, it's no surprise that what Robosend do is they make robots, and all of their other stuff, apart from the licensed things, are more traditional robots that do all of this stuff. It just happens to be that they've found a way to attract attention by making one of them look like a flagship Transformers character. Makes sense.
Yep. It's not something you transform physically yourself. It's not something you can pose on a shelf. Yeah. You can't put it on a shelf because it doesn't have a display mode, but it's okay for it to be called Transformers.
Yeah.
Far more than this stuff gets a pass.
Do you think this comes from that sort of thing, and this sort of attitude comes from, because we focus so much on Transformers, don't we? Not just on this podcast, but I mean, our social media feeds, we follow that stuff. So you see everything that's coming out. So do you think people just assume everything is targeted at them, or designed for them? And that's where a lot of it probably comes from now, because everyone is so focused on it. Their feeds are so built up around all Transformers all the time.
I think you have to remember that, not everybody is as engaged with.
They feel like they're being advertised to, even when they're not.
Well, maybe. I was going to say that, not everybody's as engaged with all the new product as we are as well. So I can sort of understand it from the perspective of, let's say a more casual fan that sees something come up. They think, oh, this looks really cool. What's this? It's like a really new toy. It looks really sexy. Oh, it doesn't transform? Like, what's that about? Like, I would have bought it if it transformed. I can totally get that. And I understand the sort of almost disappointment that some people probably get when they realize that 3.0 stuff, for example, doesn't transform.
Yeah.
But
that's after they've been drawn in by how good it looks.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. I think that, people sort of see it almost as like a tease or something like that. I don't know. It's bizarre. But I sort of get it. But at the same time, it still has a right to exist.
On my desk at work, I have a bunch of crap, as you've probably seen quite a lot. But one of the things that's on there...
Shocker.
Yeah.
Just on your desk at work, though. No worries.
Literally.
Not on the floor in your house.
My life, it's like I just walk around in a bin, basically. But but
take it easy, mate.
Wow.
But like I have a small titanium...
I explain your breakfast.
But I have a small titanium Optimus on my desk, and the amount of people that come up who aren't Transformers fans, they're, not like us, but they'll pick it up and they'll look at it and they go, oh wow, Optimus Prime, and the conversations go, oh, I remember Transformers, or my kid liked Transformers, or something like that. And then we chat about it, they put it down. Never once does anyone go, oh, this doesn't transform, it's crap. They never ever think of that at all.
Yeah.
It's those people, they just look at it and go, oh, this is Optimus Prime. I know this.
It goes back to what we were saying about this being a character-led franchise, ultimately. And the most important thing, and clearly Hasbro and Takara have hit on this, that it's the recognizable characters like Optimus, like Bumblebee, that sell this franchise. And that's why you get so bloody many of them. But that first and foremost is what it's about, not actually the fact that they can transform in a bizarre way. I know that's a bit counterintuitive, but I think it's probably true.
So when you have one of your amazing 3.0 photos, brilliantly posed, doing something dynamic that no transforming version of that toy can do, and you post on Twitter about it and you put a caption on it that says, well, this is legit fantastic.
Yeah.
Or this is the best thing ever. And then the first
Sounds
comment,
like me.
Yeah, and then the first comment is, yeah, but it doesn't transform.
Oh,
I guess the controversial opinion here is, so what?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Actually, I think I've got to tell you this just real quick, because this to me exemplifies this whole debate. So there was Toy World Freedom Leader, which is a toy that for me, man, this thing, it's that Bumblebee movie Optimus Prime again. So having talked about the 3.0 and having loved it the second I got it in hand, I then got this version, which I got to tell you, I was well up for from pictures, because it looks a lot like the 3.0, but it transforms. So there's an interest there, because you think, okay, are they actually going to pull this off? Like, are they going to do this? They're going to make something as good looking as 3.0 in robot mode, because it's the same height, everything. It's literally the same size, but it can also do the truck thing as well. As it turns out, it's hateful. Absolutely hateful. I mean, I did a video on YouTube, and hateful. I was, oh man, trying to transform this thing. I mean, all right, it's more difficult to do on camera, I got to tell you, but trying to transform it, and it was, I mean, over an hour of me trying to clunk this thing into place, bits not aligning, bits not going where they're supposed to. There's total lack of clearance at various points. Stuff is like plastic's got to go through. You got to like do that thing where you're like literally pulling plastic to try and get other bits around it and stuff like that. Nothing tabs. It was hateful beyond belief. It's without a doubt one of my least favorite, all right, it's third party, but least favorite transformations on any transforming toy I've ever done. And, people have said to me, I've had it various comments going, oh, clearly you just don't like complex transformers and things like that. And I'm like, dude, seriously, like...
Well, you don't. You like ones that don't transform.
Well, I suppose, yeah. But, I actually do love stuff like MP36 Megatron, for example, or MP Sunstreaker, because they work. They're good transformations that, although they're complex, they keep it on the right side of like being fluid and sort of intuitive and, whatever. Maybe not intuitive in Megatron's case, but, it's still... It works, even though it's complex, stuff clicks into place nicely, things like that. So anyway, lots of comments on this thing. And there was one in particular that was talking about, because I think I'd done a comparison in the video with 3.0, and I'd said, ultimately, to me, the 3.0 is more fun. And I got this one comment saying like, oh, what fun is such a buzzword. What does it matter? And it ended with, stock having fun was the comment that I got. And I was like, wow, what a really weird mindset. And it was very much
About
about
buying toys.
Yeah, I know. This is the thing. We're adults buying toys. Of course we want to have fun with it. Like, why would you do this if it wasn't fun? What for what? The prestige of it? Obviously not.
Yeah,
But
that's it. That nothing else needs saying beyond that. If that's the motivation behind knocking a product like that, then you absolutely don't have a leg. A very well articulated leg to stand on. Yeah.
I guess where I got to with it was that the Freedom Leader, the third party one, yes, it can convert, but it was so hateful to do that you would never ever want to do it. You would never want to sit and actually go through the process of getting it to
knowing that it could.
But that's it. That's what it, and that's what people said to me. Is they're like, I probably never will even transform it, but it's the knowing that it can that makes the difference. And I would say to people, the thing is, actually, the 3.0 is better in robot mode as well. It's more articulated. It's better made. It looks better, in my opinion, but it has various advantages. But it's that thing of I need to know it can transform, which I find interesting.
They're asking for a perfection that has never existed, and a company like 3.0 knows that, and they've decided they're not going to try for that perfection because it's impossible. It's not a movie screen. They can't do what they do on a movie screen. Sentient robots from other planets aren't real in our actual reality yet. So they've just created a product. They've created... Sixo doesn't count. They have created a product that
give it away.
Just gives them that part of this perfection
that
no toy ever could, and to actually not rate it for that and not see it for how that is aimed at probably other people. I would not be surprised if a lot of non-Transformers collectors buy 3.0 product to have on their desk at work, an incredible looking Bumblebee movie Optimus Prime that it just is incredible to experience. They don't need it to turn into a truck because they want Prime. So well, I'm glad we sorted everyone out on this topic.
Right. We've convinced everybody now. That's it. It's never going to be a debate ever again on the internet, I don't think. That's it.
Absolutely right.
Action Master prices are going to soar after this.
And yeah, indeed, 3.0 going to go from strength to strength. Oh my God, they're Rodimus. I keep looking at it. I can't wait. Just so excited.
Yeah, but it doesn't transform.
What a load of rollocks.
Stop comparing things, people. This is the root of the problem. No, you don't have to compare everything to everything. Leave them out.
Mic drop.
The Transformers will return after these messages.
Right, well, it's that time for the part of the pod where we're going to talk about our sponsors. And first up, as ever, is the wonderful TF Source for all your Transformers and third-party needs. They got lots of stuff in stock and up for pre-order, as you would expect. So we're going to take a little look at that and see what's taken our fancy. What's caught your eyes, chaps?
I am looking at ZC06 Mini Superitron Metallic Edition.
Superitron. Yeah.
It sounds like a... what do you call it? The allergy tablets, Piriton. So
it does a little bit, doesn't it? Superitron.
But I love this. I wish these third parties would do more of this. Shrink their sort of combiners down to a more affordable scale. Because this just looks really nice. I love the Aerobots anyway, but it's just nice to see them at this sort of scale rather than everything being masterpiece.
I'm with you on that. And honestly, as you know, I own the big version of this.
Everything.
It's total.
You're going to say everything.
Yeah. The big version of everything. Total space saver here. I've got to tell you with the smaller one, because the big one is just it's a roomy thing. So yeah, makes total sense.
For me, I'm going for DK3 Breaker Legacy Deluxe Class. I've mentioned this before actually, but TF Source now have it in stock, and I saw this in hand at Forbidden Planet in London recently, and I was really impressed with how nice this looks. I know it doesn't have the toy head, and because it's referencing a Diaclone color, it should have had the toy head. But actually, considering how little I like the Trailbreaker cartoon look, this is actually a really pretty toy. It's bigger than I thought as well. Really lovely looking paint, and it stands up really, really well as a blue Trailbreaker. It's a thing that doesn't really exist. A blue version of the animation model doesn't really exist in history of Transformers, but this is a really nice looking toy, and it's in stock now at TF Source. And I did consider buying it at FP actually, just because I don't have the original Diaclone anymore. I've owned this vintage version of this toy before, and actually looks like a really fun toy. Very pretty indeed. Big recommend on looks alone.
I got the Trailbreaker version, the black one. It's a good toy.
What about you, Sixo?
For me, I don't know. I'm tempted to pick something by 3-0 now after the previous discussion. Do you know what I mean?
That
I
would
think
be a first.
Yeah, I know. I very often don't mention them at all. I think what is interesting is that I noted that under bestsellers, they've got some Unrustables stuff in stock just there.
Oh,
Old
yeah.
Burley I Ride or I Read. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. I'd have to ask Sid. But yeah, that is a phenomenal toy that
Agreed.
I really loved handling, honestly.
I've always wanted
really
the
loved this
Akira
thing.
one. You know, the one that's based on the Akira
Which,
one?
yeah, Otomo was brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant.
Superb
able to
thing,
buy it.
honestly. Real shame that they didn't continue, actually, that line of third-party toys, the Unrustables, because just I loved everything that it was about. The bike modes were excellent. The little riders was just kind of genius. The robot modes were killer. I loved the kind of mask look with the skull and everything on it.
The whole
It was
Brain Mastery gimmicky thing was fantastic too.
super clever, super nice designs. I think it was Cassie Sark, wasn't it, that designed them? Who did obviously Feral Rex and all of that. So just amazing. So yeah, it's an unusual one. It's probably not, it's not like a new item or anything, but that would probably be my pick from TF Source at the moment. Which brings us over nicely to kapowtoys.co.uk, who you can check out if you're in the UK or in parts of Europe as well. And they've got lots of Transformers and other stuff going on. What's caught your eyes here, lads?
Right. Big shocker. It's a Diaclone item.
Ooh.
But it's a tiny one. It's the Diaclone DA96 robot-based Diafighter, which is a miniature version of the vintage Diatrain, which was a really fun shuttle. It was motorized. It turned into like a train-like figure as well. No robot mode. And this is something that already comes with the massive $400, $500 Great Robot base. But this is one that just is sold on its lonesome. So if you really, really wanted a tiny Diatrain, and didn't want to pay $400 for the privilege of having it, you can get it for $28.95. And it comes with a Dianaut. It's got a different canopy color to the one that comes with the Great Robot base, if that's something that you need to differentiate it from that version. And yes, thank you. I'm pleased for that. And of course, you can put it in the Great Robot base when you get a Great Robot base, and you can have multiple Diatrains. For a line that has been releasing super expensive stuff, big stuff, constantly recently and for ages, it's nice to go back to something at a really low price point, which is very small and can just go on your desk and is basically a tiny version of a vintage Diaclone, and grandstand converters and Diacron chronoform toy that loads of people may have seen in their youth, and they can now have a new tiny version of it with a little magnetic Dianaut.
It looks great. I didn't realize that. I knew it was a sort of crossover, but I thought it was designed to work with the base. I didn't realize it already came with the Great Robot base. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like it. And you just know that people are going to be buying multiples of this, right? There'll be some people that are going to get like 15 of them.
Yep, completely possible.
I even looked at it and half considered buying it. It's like, oh, that's a cool little looking spaceship.
Yeah. It looks quite like a Liam thing. I don't know why I think that, but it does.
I thought that too.
There you go. Not just me then. Yeah. Well, okay, so for my choice, I am going to pick a 3-0 thing. Why not? Because it's right there under new arrivals, just in stock now. It's 3-0 Transformers The Last Night Deluxe Optimus Prime. And it's, of course, it's the Last Night Optimus or Age of Extinction Optimus. I'm sure there's slight differences between them that somebody can point out to me.
One with the pecs.
It's Pectimus, yeah indeed. Absolutely. Look at him there, looking all magnificent. I know some people really don't vibe with this design, but there's something about it I've always appreciated. It's not traditional Transformers. I don't care. I think it looks great. This toy looks phenomenal. And it just has everything. I don't know. Again, I would say that I've owned several Master PC third-party versions of this design. I've got a feeling that 3-0 is going to be the one that I'm going to enjoy more than any of them. I just can't wait.
I love the pose in the first photo where he's just come out of the gym. He's got that like vibe going on. Yeah, just necked some sort of protein shake. It's a very
he does have that
buff Optimus. It's a cool design. I quite like it. I like the truck mode that the design has as well. Yes, that's kind of cool. I've always thought this one.
Now, when these guys say deluxe, they're not talking about a size class, are they?
No. So, well, they are sort of, but not really.
But I guess not that one.
Yeah. Deluxe is not in the traditional Transformers sense. It's DLX actually is what they call it.
Right. Okay.
It's just a line of toys because they do now for Transformers anyway, like essentially 3 lines. They do premium, which I don't own any of. These are like the really massive ones that they used to do exclusively, and those are like huge. Do you know what I mean? Then they do DLX, so they have already done this design, Last Night Optimus, in premium scale, I think. And then this is like deluxe, which is the ones that I've got that you've seen, and then they do DLX, and then they do MDLX, which is the newly designed Bumblebee and Optimus and Megatron and Rodimus. They've gone up, so it's 3 scales basically.
I'd quite like them to do the DMX version. That's what I'm waiting for.
That would be fun. Yeah, little Optimus on a bike, little minicon bike, maybe. Don't know.
DLX going to give it to you. That's what they're going to do.
I think on that note, that's probably the end of our sponsor segment, isn't it?
Excuse me, are you just like writing me out here? Have I been edited?
Are you not done yours yet? You were talking about BMXs.
Did a new toilet toy come out this week?
Oh man, there must be something.
Stay tuned for when I have my little toilet segment. But no, not yet. Nothing on
toilet mini-series, mate.
Nothing on the old porcelain radar yet. But I'm gonna pick, if you'll let me, Sixo.
The Throne Zone.
Throne Zone. Perfect.
Branded.
Perfect. But I'm going to pick Transformers Legacy Deluxe Skullgrin because he looks like a coffin on wheels, and I'm quite into it.
Nice. You don't have that one already?
No, I got from Kapow this week. I got Point Blank and Dead End, and I didn't realize they had Skullgrin in stock at the time. But I'm going to have to rectify that because he looks cool. It just looks. I quite like the way they fused the Pretender shell with the robot here.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So I do like the skull.
Yeah, it's just kind of cool. It just turns into a little rectangle with a turret. I'm into that.
He definitely turns into a box. Yeah. But that's cool. I do like the look of it.
So put a little bow on him, like a Christmas present.
There you go. It's pre-wrapped. Yeah. Fantastic. All right. Well, good choice, mate. Not a toilet, but maybe there'll be something for you next time.
Maybe that's a wrap then.
Certainly is now. Right. Well, that's the end of the sponsor segment. Thank you very much to both tfsource.com and kapowtoys.co.uk. Do check them out. They've been really great sponsors for us. So we'd love it if you gave them a bit of business. Thank you very much and go and check them out.
We now return to the Transformers.
Welcome back to the second half of Fight Night. And now we're going to be talking about mainline Transformers versus Masterpiece Transformers. Now, why versus? Because, you know, we've just had a whole segment of talking about why different things can exist in the same universe. Now, mainline has been the core of Transformers since its inception. Masterpiece is something new for collectors who grew up on mainline. Why are we reaching a point where we actually have to sit with these two things and compare them while everyone on the internet tries to discuss which is better than the other, which has more right to exist? I mean, how has this become a debate at all? Why is it on the episode?
I think it's sort of a bit counterintuitive to the first part until you realise that I think, if anything, it's our attempt to explore why people try and make these two things compete to begin with. So if anything, it's a sort of extension of the previous discussion in that regard. And I think it comes down to the fact that there are people that collect mainline or collect Masterpiece. There are a lot of Masterpiece snobs out there too. And they just can't wrap their head around the other side of it. They can't get that people collect something different to what they collect. And I just find it baffling. And for me, it was really kind of exemplified not so long ago with some of the Kingdom toys and things that came out. And obviously they did a lot of the Beast Wars characters in Kingdom, and they looked fantastic. And there was stuff like Black Arachnia and things like that coming out. And you obviously got then comparisons between the Masterpiece versions of these characters and the Kingdom ones. And I saw at least one comment from people going like, why does the Masterpiece even exist? What's the point of it? You know, why do people even buy it? And it's that thing for me of like that mindset of, I can't even step outside my own collecting preferences long enough to kind of consider that actually maybe the other thing has some benefit as well.
Yeah, because if the only goal is to achieve a toy of that character, then yeah, sure, you can get that for £25-30. Why pay £200 when you've achieved it with £20? But yeah, it's everything around it. And we should be clear, we're talking about mainline now, not mainline from 2000 or 2002.
Yeah.
Because we spent a lot of time talking about how Unicron Trilogy mainline is a kind of masterpiece in certain ways. But yeah, it's modern mainline we're talking about.
It's because everybody has to compare things, don't they? Like I was saying at the end of the other segment, is that what's happened is people would look at something and go, well, it's not like this, or why should I buy it instead of this, rather than this is a complementary thing that exists and I can have one, the other, or both. But I think as well, Takara and Hasbro have played into this, unfortunately, because I think the way it comes across is that they've looked at the success of Masterpiece and stuff like that, and realize that the core market at the moment is very G1 cartoon leaning, and that kind of accuracy. Even with Beast Wars, it's all very animation accurate, and that's what collectors are leaning for. So they've then tilted generations away from what it was, which was just random interpretations of different characters across the generations or whatever. Well, that was the idea. And now it's going for the same crowd as Masterpiece, or the same aesthetic, should I say. And it feels like there's competition there where there isn't. But they've also got set designs like Hasui's moves across. And so I think it automatically creates this perception, and people just latches onto what they want it to be, isn't it? This kind of a reason to pick one over and over and argue about it.
Exactly. And I think it really is kind of fueled by the fact that, a lot of former Masterpiece collectors almost switched over, didn't they? You had a lot of people selling up.
It made it way easier for me, even, because I looked and went, I enjoy Masterpiece now, but I look at these and they like toys, but they're also ticking the boxes I liked about Masterpiece.
Which, I mean, it is obviously wrong, and, you should feel bad for saying that.
He's the problem.
The problem child.
I'm joking, of course. You're very entitled to your opinion. Yeah, I'm joking. Yeah. To me, though, it's exactly what you were saying. Is that there's this sort of perception that one competes with the other, whereas actually they're complementary lines. And actually, to me, it makes sense. Much as I was saying in the sponsor segment about 3-0 having a DLX and a premium line of different sort of scales. They do the same characters in some cases anyway, in two different scales. To me, it makes sense that Takara and Hasbro would want to be putting out a sort of more premium line for collectors, if you will, and then a more sort of, I was going to say budget line. I don't mean that. Do you know what I mean? But a more
retail friendly.
A retail friendly line. Thank you. Yes,
accessible.
A more accessible line. Yeah, because that is what it is. And yes, you can get the same characters in some in both lines sometimes. So what? So I know some people that collect both. Some people collect one or the other.
Some people collect neither.
Some people collect neither, and that's okay too.
None of golden balls.
I've had occasions where, right. I've collected Masterpiece toys, and there came a time where I felt, you're overdoing it now, guys. You're overthinking it, and it's too much now. And then I've collected Generations toys where I thought, you're underdoing it. This is undercooked. There's not enough here. I felt that way with Legacy Bulkhead eventually. I thought, there's not enough here. It hasn't ticked enough boxes to make this a toy that was worth the money. And I was getting there with Masterpiece as well. I just thought, this is too much money for too much. It's just over the top. Masterpiece then brought it back with something like Reboost and Skids and Crosscut, which I just thought, sweet spot right there. And it almost exists in this space between Masterpiece and Mainline's extremes. And I don't really have a point apart from to say, and sometimes neither are for anybody, because they're not doing anything for some people.
I think you've hit on a great point there by itself, though, because actually, it's not really about the confines of either line, isn't it? Just about the individual toys and whether they're good or not.
Case.
Yeah.
But that is it, isn't it, though? People, it feels like there has to be like a core line for collectors, and that's what people seem to need. So they pick one, and it's like, that's the main line. That's what I have to get every toy. And I think that's where so much of this comes from. That's where all the comparisons seem to come in, because it's like, I have to have this definitive toy, and it has to be from a definitive line. Even if you're like, there are a million other lines that are doing anything you want. They're like, no, like the 3-0, everything like that. You're like, this all exists, and they're separate things. You could just buy stuff from pick and choose, but people are like, nope, I've got to have this. Why is it not this? Why is this one worse than the one before? It's like, it's a different toy. It doesn't matter.
Do you think some people see Generations as the collector aimed line now?
Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
Even I would say that, though, because I look at it like that. I look at it and think, what are kids, young kids now? You have Earthspark, that's aimed at kids, but then look at this and go, why would kids be looking at Point Blank and going, oh, I must have that? Like,
well, he's a cool car.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
it's a fantastic toy. And I imagine if a kid got it, it's great, but the buy-in from there is the cartoon or something. That's not what it used to be. Whereas now
100%.
I think it's changed.
the one that got me that I do kind of agree on was Puffer from M.A.S.K. You and I being in Old Smiths.
We talked about this in a previous episode, didn't we? We had this conversation.
We did, yeah. Because we were looking at the toy aisle, and there wasn't a lot there actually in this particular shop. But we were looking at you wanted to get something for my boy, and it was really like, what's he going to be into? And it was like, why are kids into puffer it's just a random thing, but it's
packaged with Road Ranger.
Yeah, with Road Ranger
in a box isn't it like the golden disc style box? Is a collector thing. It's like, why would they be drawn to that? Like, do they know what's inside?
No,
exactly. Very, very collector focused.
Yeah,
very collector focused. All of it, the packaging, everything.
But you can't see what is in those boxes, and it's all very targeted at collectors. And it feels like, do you remember when Masterpiece was going through that phase where it was just chucking out releases it felt like every week there was like a repaint.
Yeah.
And then it seemed to stop, and it was almost like there was a fork in the road, and they readjusted and looked at Generations and thought, actually, there is this whole market of people.
Let's do it then.
Yeah. Because they then started moving designers over as well, but then the aesthetic change and the whole vibe of it's been like that. Because even when it's moved away from G1, even all those characters now are very animation accurate, like your Armada, Starscreams, your Beast Wars cast. It's still following that same core collector principle of it has to look accurate and have all these different things.
It really is. It's like they going back a little bit to the sort of Hasui era of Masterpiece, and we've talked in minisodes episodes about this when they put out, and it wasn't with MP10 actually, it was with MP11 Sideswipe Lambor that they put out this statement. 12? What's 11? 11 is Starscream. Of course it is. Silly me. Revoke my Masterpiece collecting card now. But with MP12 Lambor, they put out this kind of statement of intent with this scale chart. Liam, don't get cross.
Put them red lines away.
It's like a red flag to a bull, that is. The mere mention of it.
A red circle to a bull. That's what it is.
Yeah, a red line on the internet to a bull.
Or Ragebox Toy Rage there. But they put out this sort of statement of intent, and they basically said, this is what you're going to get. And they had the lineup of all the original casts, like Hound and Mirage and Sunstreaker and all of these guys. Some of them they haven't even done yet, but it went out, and it was almost like everything you've ever wanted, you're going to get in toy form. And this is what we're going to do. And they never actually kind of got there, to be fair, but they made a good inroads into it with the Datsuns and whatever else. And then, obviously the Masterpiece design has changed. And you're right, somewhere it flipped, and now it's almost like Generations has picked up that baton and run with it faster than Masterpiece ever could.
Bait and switch.
Yeah, it is. A little bit.
So you've hit on something there that's great, because you mentioned Sideswipe and stuff like that. But one of the core things with those things, if you remember, those toys, is they were affordable. Like, you could get them from Japan for like 30 quid.
True.
Which is now where Deluxes and Voyagers are. And you're like...
Yes, the price points have shifted.
So you can see it as well. A lot of people were slowly jumping away from Masterpiece because the prices were going up. And this is ticking that box because it's still hitting that same affordable price point.
Yeah, I think at the risk of saying it, I'm not convinced that you get the same amount for your money that you did during the Hasui era of MP Lambor, because that really was like exceptional. I mean, that was like the masterpieces. Then the Carbots were beneath the kind of MP10 level, and I know there were people that are like, no rubber tires, no diecast. What is
some
this?
of the best masterpieces though, because they still
incredible
have that
designs.
thing. But you are right, and I think that's it though. I think the point is it's what's affordable, what's the price point that I'm willing to pay, because I've always said, haven't I, that I've never spent like above £200 on a toy, because it's just a point where it's Yeah, I don't look at it and go, it's too much and not worth it. It's just, it's not what I would pay on a toy. So drifts out of my interest. And I think that's what happens here, is people look at it and they go, I'm quite willing to pay 20, 30 quid for a toy. But once you get above that, Masterpiece and stuff, it's not for me.
Yeah.
And so mainline stuff.
I think the Carbots is the thing, because I think a lot of people, like even with Masterpiece, you can sort of look at it back at that time and think, well, I won't get Star Saber and Ultra Magnus and the big ones because they're too expensive, but I'll get all the cars. And then they started making stuff like Sunstreaker, more complex, more parts, more complicated, more engineering. And with all of that comes a higher price point. But then it went over £100 or whatever it was, whatever the kind of benchmark was. And I think people at that point just went, no. And they were like, I'm out. And like you were sort of saying, it's almost like Generations a little bit after that, but kind of picked it up and ran with it. And I do think it's not quite comparable, but they're doing essentially what Masterpiece was sort of initially people felt like it was going to do. And the fact that you're now getting Diaclone homages, you're getting, basically everything, aren't you? Microchange, Generation 2, unreleased prototypes, decos and things, stuff that you just never would have even imagined would happen in Masterpiece. You've got the fact that you get like a Generations spin out and a Generations cordon is mad to me. Puffer, Road Ranger, all of these things that we've been talking
Puffer's
about.
the mad one, isn't it? That's like really niche.
Yeah,
but it's
so niche.
It's really important though, because it's a way for people to engage with something like a Puffer, something really obscure that would be normally like a really expensive toy that they would be far out of reach. And now this is the thing with something having like a mainline like this. There's so many people can engage with it and buy it, and I think that's why you get so much of the fervor for it. And to the point now where people are always complaining and they want it to be something that it's not, or be something else. And I think that's where it comes from now, because everybody can be involved in it, and that's where they want to be, because they're all in the fandom, isn't it? You all want to experience the same thing. So I think that's why it's moved on from Masterpiece to this now.
But the mistake then comes when people say, so that's now irrelevant.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Masterpiece is now
100%.
irrelevant and is no longer got a place
because it's the
in
comparison.
my heart and therefore shouldn't in yours.
Because people have to compare everything. It's unnecessary, because you look at it and go, I look at, Earthrise Sunstreaker? And it's like, I look at Masterpiece and go, the Masterpiece one is great, Earthrise one is not very good, but I have both because I quite enjoy transforming the Earthrise one. And it's like, they don't replace it when they're not compared, but people will compare them.
Gotta say, that Sunstreaker in hand was a lot of fun.
Really nice
I was
to play
playing with your sons, Sixo, and it's a fun toy. I couldn't put it down, actually. So
I must admit, it was one that I'd sort of written off from pictures because it's got the kind of bare naked, British man on holiday look to it, of kind of two-tone, sort of weird fleshy colour, and there is a little bit of that in hand as well. I speak from experience, but there is a bit of that in hand.
Is there a little bit of a British fleshy man in hand?
Yeah, well, it's just Friday night around these parts, mate, honestly.
That's why you were so funny about Santa's sack earlier, isn't it? This is where your mind is tonight.
Yeah,
Get out the gutter,
indeed.
boy. Come on.
Well, we have carried on as we started.
It was when you started talking about giving him a hand with his load that I was like, oh my god.
Wait, load bearing.
Right, sure.
The load bearing
hit.
Good lord. Anyway, yeah, that's Sunstreaker. I'd sort of written it off a little bit from pictures because it does look weird and it does have the two-tone yellow thing and all of that. But actually the design of it is great. And honestly, my little boy loves it. I mean, I remember we went out for the day once and he took it with him. And just the whole day, he was twisting and turning that thing. When you get a kid that's just so engaged with a toy like that, just ka-dunk, 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 constantly kind of turning it around. And even, getting stuck occasionally and his mum having to help him out if I wasn't around and stuff and all of that. And that's great. That's a really good thing. For me as a collector, I enjoy transforming it, but it would never, ever replace or compete with the Masterpiece, which is a toy that I legitimately love. Like, it's a favourite Masterpiece design, that for me. So I think that they both have their place, and I think they both have their spot on the shelf or whatever, if that's what people want to do. And I just don't get this thing that one is obsolete over the other.
No, there's just no need to add to your love of a toy by also putting down the other one that other people like. And there's that on both sides of this.
Yeah.
There really is. It's just they fulfill a different purpose, and they are the perfect Sunstreakers to different collecting groups. And we're both required to make the line successful. You almost don't have one without the other. And I realize that mainline has been the bread and butter of this brand since its start. And the original Sunstreaker was two-tone as well, so it's accurate.
True.
But a lot of the disappointment around Sunstreaker as well, even for myself, comes from the fact it doesn't look like Sunstreaker. And I think that's when you step back and look at it and you go, but it doesn't have to. We can have something different.
Yeah, exactly. You realise you're stuck in that whole thing about it doesn't look like cartoons, but that's okay. It's a new Sunstreaker.
Also,
that's it.
The thing I don't like about Masterpiece Sunstreaker is that he looks too much like cartoons. There's an awkward look to both of them, but in different ways. But imagine if you saw the Earthrise one, you'd never seen a Sunstreaker before, but the first time you saw one was that, and you'd be like, wow, that's pretty cool. Like the old Universe one. It's actually quite nice, but there's always that perspective. And I think this is what comes across a lot of the fandom, a lot of the arguments is they look at it through a lens of it having to look like something that it isn't at the same time, rather than it being merits. Just comparing everything.
That is a thing I don't quite get with Generations sometimes. I mean, I think all the Generations toys kind of look great under their own steam and their own merit, but it must be confusing at times for people that are really into this cartoon accurate idea. Like, I saw there were people recently that were really getting quite het up about, I think it was Wild Rider and the stripe on Wild Rider, because it has there has a stripe that's not in the cartoon, or it doesn't have a stripe that is in the cartoon.
Is that Dead End? Because Dead End in the cartoon doesn't have the stripe over the top, does he?
It's Dead End.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, it is Dead End.
But
Stunticon number 3 or whatever it is.
Red one.
But yeah, I did actually know which one I was, but for some reason I'd got it in my head. I'm actually one of the rare people that can distinguish the 4 Stunticons, but for some reason I got it in my head it was Wild Rider. But yes, it was Dead End that people were talking about, and it was causing all kinds of debate about this stripe because it has the stripe, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The Generations.
The
one.
Unite Warriors didn't. I think they took it off to make it more contact accurate, and it looked blander for it. So because I just got that toy yesterday, the Studio Series one, and I was really glad they've put the stripe over the top.
Right.
And it surprised me that they did for this reason, because they're so beholden to cartoon accuracy now.
That's what my point is, that I don't know. I'm not saying it's wrong to be annoyed about the stripe or anything like that. In a way, I kind of get it, because if the sort of statement of intent of the line is looking like the cartoon, it's then a bit jarring when they break away from that slightly. So it must be confusing at times. I don't know.
I imagine there is that from a lot of people. It's not that consistent because things do change. Some things are slavishly accurate, other things are completely different. So
yeah,
I can get it from that point of view. I just think
you get what you get at the end of the day, don't you?
But that was always the gateway into Generations, wasn't it? It is every toy should be different, and the theme is that they are Generations toys rather than them looking all like a cartoon or like this. So
for sure, and as a masterpiece collector who typically doesn't go for Generations, I got to tell you, there are definitely times now where you sit back and think, bloody hell, look at what these buggers are getting. Do you know what I mean? They're getting a masterpiece, this, that, and the other, and a black Ironhide they're getting now, and a blue Trailbreaker, and all the stuff that we would, love to get over in masterpiece line. But at the end of the day, it ain't the way it is anymore, is it? I think that's the bit that I think is missing in masterpiece right now, is some of the kind of cool repaints and stuff. I've loved what they've done with, like, as you said, Maz, with Reboost and Crosscut and now Burnout, and I kind of
feel to that a lot.
Yeah, I kind of want them to go back to that, of like pumping out those really cool repaints that really, because I do think masterpiece molds merit being repainted multiple times over. But yeah, Generations is all over that stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And like I say, it is affordable as well, because with masterpiece now, if you were collecting them more, it's not just the cars, is it? Like the jets are so expensive. Optimus Prime is like £400 or £500, isn't he? So it's very easy, I think, for people to migrate over to Generations.
This whole debate is, I've heard this debate for Generations versus G1 as well.
I think it's Generations.
It's like, why bother going and tracking down a vintage Trigger Happy when I can have a Generations one? Or same with Point Blank. And, it's horses for courses. Like, every version of that toy has its merit. And I almost think that let's just be careful, because I feel like the conclusion for today is almost that people are the problem. As we've come to in segments. But yeah, guys, line up.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's what you said, because you're right. I've seen that debate about G1 versus Generations before. I've had people say to me, why do you want the G1 toy when it's, a brick? And people sort of have that disdain about it when I've you can get your new mans with knee bends and elbows, and
G1 is not enough. Masterpiece is too much.
Yeah,
it's just depends where you're standing. It's this triangle of
this other Generations version isn't the one. This other one that's happened isn't either. This new one is.
Yeah, we need a new Generations toy because the one from 4 years ago is obsolete now for some reason.
Didn't have wrist swivels.
Yeah, exactly. Ab crunch and butterfly shoulders and whatever. But I think that it's that word obsolete for me, and it's that not being able to understand that other people collect things different to what you collect, and that what you collect is good for you, but that other people see it differently. And I think that's the bit that some people just sometimes could do with kind of remembering.
Absolutely. And it's also okay to collect things you like, rather than feeling like you have to just stick with the main line, or you have to follow the trend. Just buy it if you like a different toy from another line. Feel like your ranks like that.
I did. I just remembered an example I came across recently, the most blatant example of someone saying the Generations version is so good, I don't see the need for the masterpiece to exist. It was Skids, actually.
Yeah.
Which I guess it's the legacy Skids that people really, really like, that this person especially liked. And it's so funny that they would point to the masterpiece of Skids, which is so far away from this masterpiece extreme now. It's it's a toy. It's a pick up and play toy.
It's quite accessible. Yeah,
it cannot be put down. It's so fun to play with. Almost, it's not far away from the most complex mainline toy there ever has been. That Masterpiece Skids. It's not so different in terms of complexity and part count and what it does. And I just felt like I didn't connect with that statement at all, because however good that Legacy Skids is, I would look at it personally and I see things about it aesthetically that simply don't work for me. And I wouldn't then go and select that version of Skids. And even to the point where I was like, well, I have the Masterpiece version. If that's an amazing Skids, I'll buy that too. It didn't even get me to that degree that I'm like, I'll add it because it looks so good. And that wasn't because I don't like mainline toys, because I do collect mainline toys. I collect mainline toys from all generations of mainline toys.
You love Titan's Return.
I did, yeah. And those toys didn't even have heads. You know? They had to remove the heads to make them transform. So it's just...
That comment speaks to, though, doesn't it? There's people needing this perfect idea of a character. Like they focus on, there can just be this one. And so they're like, oh, I don't see why that needs to exist, because this one I've got makes me happy. It's like, that's fine. But then other ones exist because people might not like that. Like, I don't mind that Skids. It's all right. I love the Masterpiece. I thought that was great. But I own the mainline one because I didn't need one that bad. And I also own the vintage one, which is my favourite of the bunch.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's a really good example of Skids, actually, because yes, also to add on to what you were saying, Maz, the vintage toy is also an absolute banger, isn't it? Let's be fair. It really is. And entirely not obsolete as a result of the Masterpiece and the Generations toy existing. And the three of them can just be complementary to one another.
It's got better accessories than the Masterpiece version does.
Indeed.
Does Skids have the record for the best versions of each era? Because he has so few toys, but everyone's a banger, isn't it? Like even the Binal one is great.
Binal one is really
vintage toy's great. Yeah. The other Generations one, based on the More Than Meets the Eye model,
the T30.
Yeah, that's cool as well. He's only got like 4 or 5 toys, but they're all great in their own way.
Yeah, it's one thing you can say is that Skids has certainly made his mark on this franchise.
Are we going to talk about movie Skids too?
We can do, if you'd like to.
I'll tell you what, I owned the...
oh God, actually, yeah, I retract all of that. I forgot about movie Skids.
Yeah. Hang on. Human Alliance Skids from the movie was a superb toy. Absolutely brilliant. I loved it. It was a great toy.
From an engineering perspective.
Yes. And just looks in car mode. And robot mode until he got to the head.
Yeah. But, isn't all of this saying that these characters, these toys, these whatever, they've been around for nearly 4 decades now. There are going to be multiple versions of them. The fact that, some of them now are coming out sort of, parallel to another version or whatever, it doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? They can still coexist. It's all good. And ultimately, it's all money being pumped into the brand as well. Like if I'm not buying a Generation so-and-so, and someone else isn't buying a Masterpiece or whatever, that's okay, because we're all still ultimately funding each other's, kind of the cross-pollination of it all. It's all adding to the kind of successful part of the franchise doing well. And so it's all good to me. There's loads of stuff out there. I know people joke about me and all of Transformers, but it's obviously, it's not true. It's actually not true.
So why do people think I've got all of Transformers when I own all of Transformers?
Well, you'll want to talk, Mr. Big Box from Weetabix, but it's to me it's fine to know that there aren't toys that I buy. It doesn't matter to me that, because ultimately the people buying them are still funding the stuff that I also like. It's all cyclical.
And if you're going to get on my case for not buying Generations or Masterpiece and funding your hobby, look, I give Takara Tomy plenty of money in Diaclone, so don't get on my case.
And trains.
That is true. That is true.
The trains. That's another thing. Don't get me started on the trains, man. I have conversations about whether the third-party trains are good. I wonder if we got Generations trains, how would that impact people's view of the Masterpiece?
They'd compare them. And that's what they would do. They would compare them.
Which is the best.
Yeah. But I think, for me, what we need to do is we just need to move away from this idea that every new toy is iterative. Because everyone seems to look at it like, oh, this one's replacing that one. It's like, it's just a new version. And I think as well,
100%.
Hasbro,
another version even.
But yeah, I think Hasbro and Takara also need to move away from that a little bit, because every time they release a new character, it's just sometimes it's a slightly different version that's more accurate or something. It'd just be nice to get a break from that so people can also move away from that.
I honestly find
as much as I love it, and I was just still buy it. But...
Yeah. I honestly find now, if I'm being totally honest, comparisons between, let's say, a Generations toy and a Masterpiece toy really just a bit reductive, like a bit pointless. It's a bit moot. I don't know. It doesn't matter, does it? When there was something the other day, I'm trying to remember what it was, and people were like, oh, how does this compare to that? And I was like, well, they're two fundamentally different toys, entirely at their core, very different, that just happen to vaguely resemble the same core character in different ways. So does it matter which is better, really? I mean, it's like, I don't know, take something like RC. Which is better, the Binaltech or the Masterpiece? Or the Studio Series, or the Generations, or, whichever one.
QTF.
Yeah, right, exactly. Who's to say? There's no one definitive version of that character. For me, I love seeing the Masterpiece because it's a realization of the character in a way that we've never really seen before.
Can confirm. That needs
really
to be
beautiful.
Seen in person.
Yeah.
To really understand the wow of it. And it is
incredible.
Wow. I have the Legends RC. It's great. It goes with so many different toy lines that I have. It goes with G1. It goes with Titan's Return. It goes with Studio Series. It's a great toy. I saw the Masterpiece and I was like, that's incredible for what it is. It's a completely incredible thing, all of its own, as an island. It doesn't have to be it's incredible because it's so much better than LG or Earthrise. It's just that's doing exactly what it set out to do, and wow, well done for achieving it so well. And it deserves to exist, deserves 100%. To cost what it does, and I don't know anyone who owns it who is really unhappy with it.
Yeah, 100%. All of that.
Transformers is not the Highlander. There doesn't have to just be only one
yes.
headmaster heads popping off left, right.
Yeah, someone tell Titans Return that.
Out.
Sorry, Sixo.
That's all right. I was just going to say, we were talking recently about Binaltech RC and singing up the virtues of that because it was a different version of that same character. And I like that. I like all of those different takes. And I worry, it's kind of what you were saying, Liam, that we're kind of squishing it into this almost like homogenous, each character chasing the sort of same narrow slice of perfection. I don't think that's where the brand needs to go at all.
No.
I do see where this argument comes from, or rather how this sort of opposition has formed. When people do say things like, I've just got the Generations version of X, they don't even need to do a Masterpiece now. And I do see like Masterpiece collectors look at that and say, yeah, it still does because that doesn't do X, Y, and Z. So it's almost like this tunnel vision of not seeing what the other side, what appeals to the other side. That's at the core of this discussion, I think. Just not seeing what they see in a Masterpiece toy. And it's not all about, I'm buying this to be a snob because I have a higher budget. And to me, this is much more complex than your child's toy. And therefore, yours doesn't need to exist. And I'm a better collector and person as a result of buying this toy.
Are you saying this now as you, or are you just giving an impression of what people do say?
I don't buy either. I'm not a Masterpiece collector, and I'm not a mainline collector. Really, I haven't picked one basket. I just dabble in, and then spend my money elsewhere.
These are both beneath you.
I'm buying toys from 20 years ago. Have you not checked the miniseries? I've just discovered the Unicron trilogy, guys.
Yeah. I think
still 1990 where I live.
I'm a bit like you. The best toys are the ones that are 20 years old. You know what I mean?
Because you can call it vintage.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I totally agree. I just think, why compare? Why try and make one version obsolete? That's my thing.
Yeah.
Screw that go compare guy.
Yeah.
No compare.
No compare.
Don't compare.
Don't compare.
Excellent. Well, we put that one to rights then, haven't we? I think.
Yep. I think that'll just about do it for our controversial opinions, chapter 3. We're all still friends as well, which is Ace was in question originally. Although
that implies we were
showing off his pink rod. That might not be the case.
Did you notice that I did relocate him up to
he's bloody put it up there, look!
How did you not see that? I've just been waiting for it to fall.
Because it looks orange on his cam.
I wasn't subtle.
It's got orange rod.
He's literally right there, just behind me. I thought you could just get a little glimpse of him as we're talking to each other. See him the whole time.
Sponsors then.
Yes, indeed. Oh, yeah, we do have sponsors, don't we? So we've got, who are they? tfsource.com and kapowtoys.co.uk. We did a longer segment on them in the middle of the pod, and they're still ace, so do check them out for all your Transformers and third-party needs.
And of course, we have a Patreon. If you want more content from us, that's patreon.com/triple takeover. And of course, one of the perks of our Patreon is that at Inner Beast level and higher, not only can you get access to the Discord server where the Andor spoiler chat is the place to be right now, or just how some of us aren't getting any sleep at all because of our toddlers.
That last episode of Andor, just saying, watch it tonight. Tremendous. Utterly amazing.
Absolutely
Great
tremendous.
series.
Absolutely my favourite thing I've watched this year,
Yeah.
easily. But the perk that you can get at Inner Beast and higher is that you can ask a question to be answered on the pod. So what a great perk this is. As if, getting early access and getting mini-sodes at higher levels and getting shout-outs wasn't enough. You can have a question answered on the pod. And today's question comes from Anthony Cars, and it is, if you could only keep one Transformer from your current collection, which one would it be and why?
Oh,
Easy.
It's cruel.
go on, Liam. He's looking around.
Yeah, which one would you keep today? I think that's just...
Yeah. Which one's nearest?
Right, your room's burning right now. You've got to run out right now. Which one do you grab? You're leaving.
Yeah, but I'd always
this
make the
instant.
wrong choice in these situations. I'd pick
Yeah,
something
but which
really
choice would you
disappointed
make?
as I got out the door.
Okay, right, but which choice would you make?
There's a major trip hazard, can I say?
A major trip hazard. There's a lot.
Take the trip hazard.
You know what? I'd probably pick up something. It'd be something really small, like Warpath. Not just because I have to carry it, but I just there's little toys that you just love transforming backwards and forwards.
Yeah, that's it. Practicality.
Yeah.
Pick the smallest thing.
Get in the pocket.
I mean, if you're going to do that, you could pick a whole handful of them, no?
Just scooping Micromasters into my pocket. That's what I'm doing.
Your girlfriend's shouting, "Come on, Liam!" and you're like, "I can get more.
I can get countdown in."
Yeah. If I think answering it in the spirit of it being asked, I think it's more like, if you sold off your whole collection, if you needed to sell off your entire collection, what do you foresee would be the one that would be left that you just simply couldn't sell? That's the one that you draw the line and say, nope, never that.
Okay, I think for me, legitimately, it might be G1 Hot Rod, honestly.
Yeah. The pink one?
Well, bizarrely, I'm not sure. Bizarrely, I kind of feel like maybe it would just be the original, the red one. I know that's sort of counterintuitive to all the pink Hot Rod love that we've been giving it at the moment, and I do love the new one. I don't know. Tough one. Which one would be the sort of definitive, if you like, for me now? There's just still that kind of nostalgic feel of the vintage red toy, even though it's not in some ways my ideal hot rod. I don't know, it's still got that kind of vintage appeal to it, that kind of nostalgic appeal.
Yeah, for me it would definitely be G1 Point Blank. Now I thought about it.
Ooh,
there are
nice.
A few toys. I don't think there's another toy actually that when I pick it up I get the same feeling from it of nostalgia and just how much I love that toy. So I think that'd be the one in that panicked, frenzied moment of having to grab it while things are going down. That would be the first one. I'd be like, yeah, that beautiful toy.
Nice.
What about you, Master?
I think for me, it's going to be one of my 26 childhood Transformers. It would be one of those because they are tied to people, my parents, and I just think if I got to the point where I was holding one of them, wrapping it up to sell it, and I was putting it in a box and addressing it to someone else, I just don't think my head and my heart would let me do that. I'm giving away something my mum and dad bought for me that I absolutely loved. And I always remember who bought it, where it was bought from, that kind of thing. And I think it would be a toss-up between Target Master Scourge, my childhood one, because I've upgraded that toy. It's not perfect yet, but the one I have on display is better than the one I have at home. Or I guess my battered G1 Starscream. I still remember the day from Toys R Us where that was bought. So it would be one of those two, I think.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I can't imagine living without either of them. I just can't imagine ever having to say goodbye to those.
It's important to have that emotional connection to these things, isn't it?
Okay, so thank you, Anthony Cars, for that question. And now we're going to do the other Butler and GBC perk, which is a shout out on the show.
Best point of our episode, this.
I love it. I get majorly pumped for this bit.
It's just to see how M.A.S.K can do it without ever failing. I'm always impressed by how he manages to do it.
Right, yeah. Shall I try and do it backwards this week for a bit of variety?
Well, like Red Dwarf. We go to Nod Knoll.
Nod Knoll.
All right, so a big, massive thank you to Charlie Chappelle, Robert Walter, Seven the Chronicler, Jickle, MK Tronic, 4 Big Balls, Ghost Prime, James Pascoe, Shanty Siegel, Jim Kinsey, Shawnee Sean, Fart Warp, Steve Redmond, Alicia aka Alicia Tron, Chris Rodwell, Tyler Husky, Neil Bat, Mike Loyokono, Bobby P, Eric Hoyt, Juan Carpintero, On Chrysomatic Ball, Bert Perotta, Die Brave Sid, Connor C, Graham Moffat, Andrew Bentley, Mark Addy, Christian Hyatt, Zindius, Ashpolt, Josh Bell, Quick Mix, Dougatron, Big Doug, Esteem, Dave Shepard, Jason Murray, Zach Lawson, Mythic Gears, Will Bates, CNC Rick 56, Malcolm Hobbs, Mollis Koenig, Lucas Henkel, Shinsei, Ben Lewis, Campbell, Tim Banerjee, Kyler Wilmuth, John Wood, Inbound Lee, Nice Sideburns Annie, Jeffrey Freak, Danvers Cracktastic Plastic, Michael Kegel, Misha Kidd, Joshules, Simon Elvin, Cold Squall, Andy Gold, Billy Gator, TF Starfire, Aaron Swoboda, Jim Owen, Nexus, Jackson Arwood, Jesse Marino, Chris Norris, Shenry, Peter Hammerson, Vegemite Mike, Puma the Hunter, Laserbeak, Amar. And actually, Amar joined the Discord this week, and I said to him, hey, you're the guy who always comes before Laserbeak. But today, he's the guy who comes after Laserbeak. Stuart Webb, Road to Storm, Jacques Pelletier, Phil G, Captain R.A., Alec Meir, Anthony Cars, Troy Sev, John Pearl, Yusufa, Gio Kaiser, Dave Dalrymple, Justin Massaro, Bad Saturday, Stephen Perkins, Matt, Adam Shoemaker, Spiderfather, Chris, Preston, Andy, Danny Roberts, Nick. And a big thank you to our new butlers and GBCs. Yes, the list has gotten bigger. DD, Maddie Clark, Jonathan False Logic Howard, and Alexis Taylor. Oh, and the Mix brothers, who you might recognise. What a list, even backwards.
I am
What a list.
forever impressed. Like, you don't understand this, but it's not even edited. He does this perfectly each time. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible. It is incredible. Honestly, I keep thinking, no, he's going to trip up. And you never do. Never do.
Sometimes.
Nah.
And remember, if you want to buy more Triple Takeover stuff, you can always head over to our merch store. Remember, you can still help Santa Claus out. Get some presents for your friends and your family, and you can go find those all.
Help him release his load.
And if you somehow listen to this episode and go back in time, you can take advantage of the Redbubble Black Friday sale.
Ah, see? Another reason to go check it out.
Especially if you live in one of those places where it's still 1990.
Yes. I'm sure there are still places like that.
Well, it's still trapped in 1990.
Probably still a blockbuster video.
And you can find all of that at rebel.com/people/triple takeover/explore. And if there's any controversial opinions that you have and you would like to let us know about them, or anything you want to say about anything we've spoken about today, you can find us on social media at @triple_takeover on Twitter and Instagram, and at triple takeover, all one word, on Facebook. Guys, where can they find you?
I'm at TFsquareone on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, but not Mastodon, or Mastodon, as Sixo sometimes calls it.
Mastodon. That's a good point. There's more now. My God, I'm everywhere. At Sixo TF, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Patreon, Mastodon, Hive as well. Hive social app is a new thing. Try it out there. How many social platforms does one man need?
Not that many.
No, I don't even think I need that many.
And I'm Toybox Soapbox. Anyway, there's an app, except for Mastodon, even though that was the best Power Ranger.
I think that's why they named the app what they did. That's the name of it. It was a Power Rangers themed homage.
Do you think we're going to get like a competing one to Instagram called like Pterodactyl, and there's one called Tyrannosaurus? It's just all of them.
Sure. Just remembering that pterodactyl is not a dinosaur. Of course.
It was to the Power Rangers. Hop on Megazord. Find us at Megazord soon.
Right, that's it for another set of controversial opinions, and they've been put to rest. Before long, we will have solved all the issues in the fandom, sometime around 1990. Until next time.
I know another guy who's desperately struggling to fill his sack at the minute. Lighten his load.
So there's an interest there because you think, okay, are they actually going to pull this off?